G'day and welcome to Start Creating Robots. Today we're going to create a robot with CAD or computer aided design. So what is computer aided design? Well, I mean, it's in the name. It's a way of creating mechanical structures and objects using a computer rather than the older fashioned way of doing it with drafting tools. We are going to create models that are reminiscent of a thing, but maybe with a lower detail that they wouldn't be necessarily buildable in terms of they're not going to have the screw holes or the internal structures. What we want to do is we want to create broad models that we can use in a simulation that are just detailed enough that they'll work in a simulator. And we're going to use in particular, because in this course we're using all free and open source tools, we're going to use FreeCAD, which is a really amazing way of building your robot models, and also comes with a really great free toolbox that integrates into ROS very nicely. All right, so here we are back again inside of our Docker container, running, with the Docker run command that we talked about in day one, as well as going to localhost port 6080 on your web browser to get to this screen. We're going to open VS Codium, and this time we're going to hit. You may need to open folder home start creating robots 2, which is where the stuff is cloned to, copied to. I'm going to hit Control Shift P, run task. And then we're going to have one called FreeCAD. FreeCAD is the name of the CAD software that we're using. And what it's going to do is it's going to open up for us a FreeCAD robot that we can use. So it might take a little bit of time. It's going to open up a bunch of stuff, and CAD programs are notoriously complicated. We're using a development version because the stable version doesn't quite work in this setup. And here is the robot. Now, FreeCAD and CAD itself is actually a fairly complicated system, so I'm only going to give you a very, very high level view of how this all works. But in the top right here, you can see there's this little cube, and if we click on the cube, it'll change our view to being different angles of this 3D model. On the left here, we've got some complicated stuff. We've got some folders, including wheels and chassis, and then we've got these things are the way that you construct the models. So I'm going to leave out how to build models in FreeCAD. That can be quite complicated. It's a sort of cover it in the Become a Roboticist course, but it's going to take too long for this one. But if you know how to use CAD, feel free to play around, experiment with how this works, or find one of the many free tutorials on how to use CAD out on the internet. What I want to highlight, though, is how we're using the free CAD Cross Workbench. So we've created this thing called Robot, and if we go and click on this bar here and choose Cross Workbench, we'll get access to a whole bunch of new little icons along the top here. And so we want to bear in mind that we want to be in the Cross Workbench. Now, I do want to modify this robot, and the simplest way, what I would like you to do, just because it's kind of fun, is in this robot, there'll be a thing that says robot name under chassis, box chassis, body, pad number 3, and then there's a string S robot name. If we double click on that, what you'll get is this little box here on the left. And then you can change this string to anything you like. So I'd like you to change it to sort of your name. I'll just write your name. Oh yes, and what we will need to do, one thing, is we will need to tell it to use the font, the Freedom font, which is in part of the thing, but it's just the path is wrong. So tell it to use the Freedom font, hit OK, and then you'll see your name. Now you'll notice that this overlaps here, and we don't want this to overlap, so what we can do is we could either reduce the height of the text, and that's probably a good way, or you could use a shortened thing. But I'm going to call my robot's got your name written on it, but obviously you should use your actual name, not your name. And yeah, if you wanted to, you could go in and look at the wheels, and you could change the wheels up, whichever one you want, the body and the pads and stuff, and you can modify the wheels how you like. And feel free to play around with this. You can't really break it, and if you do break it, well, you can just regenerate it by just closing the Docker container and opening it up again. So feel free to have to mess around. What we're going to do is we're going to click on Robot, making sure that we're in the Cross ROS workbench. And then we're going to click this Export to URDF button. And this will create, say, it's going to export to Start Creating Robots, Source, First FreeCAD Robot, click Select All, and hit Generate Files. what this is going to do is this is going to generate all the files necessary to describe this robot in the URDF, which is what Ross uses to understand his robots. And the way that works, although we cover this a bit more in the Become a Roboticist course, but you specify all the structure in a kind of visual way on the left here, and then you can and then when you specify the structure correctly, it'll output a robot. But let's go check out the robot that we have just done. So I'll get rid of that. Control Shift P, run task, and now there's a task empty world with your robot. So let's click on that one. And we're going to get something a bit new. So I'm just going to move here. And so here we go. There's the robot with your name. Hopefully you should see whatever your actual name is on that robot, or whatever you want to write, I guess, on that robot. And now we've got this other thing, which is a little steering window. So this controls the forward and left and right velocity of the robot. So if we move this up, it'll go forward, down, it'll go back, and then it'll go left or it'll go right. And so feel free to drive your little robot around with your name on it. And so this is how we can, you could put this robot into the cafe world that Crichton was in. You could add stuff to this robot. Maybe you want to add a little tray or something or other, or build a robot that kind of suits the needs and desires that you have. And then you can use this CAD template to simulate it, and then where you go, you can have a simulation with the robot that you've uniquely made. And we go into this in a bit more detail in the Become a Roboticist course. So that's it for today. I hope you had fun with that. I think it's really important to be able to create your own robot and not be sort of beholden to robots that other people make. Sometimes you really need to be able to express what the robot needs to do for the situation at hand. And if you want to go learn more, as I said, we're doing a lot of work on actually how this works in terms of using CAD in the Become a Roboticist challenge. So if you want to go and learn more, you can come and join me over there. If you want to hang around for the next day, so tomorrow we're going to look at just quickly, how do we make an environment? So once you can make your own custom robot, you need to create an environment that's compelling for it to live in. And so we'll have a bit of a quick look at how to do that with some free tools in Gazebo. See you then.